Hi everyone, it's Anne-Marie here bringing you this week's Thought for the Week. So lockdown in all of its various forms has been really weird, hasn't it? I found it a weird mix of both things slowing down, not having to go out for quite so many meetings or things in the evening. It's given me time to work a little bit more on my mental health, which has not been too great for the last couple of years, lots of ups and downs, but it's been really useful for me to spend more time spending time on that and kind of addressing and working through a few things. But also I've been really busy trying to figure out what my job looks like now that I can't go into schools to do assemblies. So me and the ICE team, we've still been working really hard, making lots of online content for schools. It's been a time for picking up some really good habits for me. So I've been getting used to stretching a little bit more often, making that part of my routine, which is going to be both good for me, for my physical health, and really fun for my skating when I'm eventually allowed to go back. But I've also picked up a few not so good habits, so I definitely am finding myself sitting on the sofa for too long, and while there's nothing wrong with sitting on the sofa, I need a bit more physical activity than what lockdown has made normal for me. So that's been a bit of an adjustment, both good and bad habits. Now, I was a little bit worried about doing this thought for the week, mainly because I didn't really think I had any thoughts that were worth sharing. You see, one of the good habits that I really wanted to reinforce and pick up again in my life is spending time with God. And that's not something that I feel particularly successful in, but it's something that I know a lot of Christians will struggle with. So for me, with my mental health, when it's low, it's easy for me to feel like I failed or like I'm not good enough. And then that leads me to distancing myself from people, but also from God. I feel like I don't deserve to spend time with God, or that I'm not good enough to spend time with Him. And it becomes so much more difficult. And we see this happening in the Bible too, when right at the very beginning in Genesis, when God seeks Adam and Eve out in the garden, they hide from Him. So it's a pattern, I think, that repeats, doesn't it, throughout all of human history. We are sought by a loving God, but often we hide from Him, when really He's the one we should run to the most. I think this kind of struggle is one I'm not alone in. I think a lot of Christians will feel like spending time with God is something that we should do more often. But I also struggle with finding the balance between being disciplined enough to make that a part of my day, whilst also not making it an item on my to-do list. So what do? If we know we want to spend more time with God, it's a struggle, it's not always easy. Sometimes life happens and we get distracted, and sometimes bad mental health happens and we hold ourselves back from something that we actually should go to for help. Well, at this point is normally where I would go, okay, let's think of some practical stuff to do. Let's read our Bibles more often. Let's get up earlier, make some more time for that quiet time with God. Let's study the Bible more, listen to more worship music, catch up on more online Christian content. But doesn't that sound like an awful lot to do? When actually I think God doesn't want to be a responsibility, He wants relationship. So I suggest, for myself and for anyone else who's struggling with this at the moment, instead of making things to do, let's pause, take a step back, and let's think about asking God to change our hearts, to find more and more joy in Him, and to look at ourselves the way that God looks at us, with eyes of compassion and love. And let's try and reframe what loving God actually looks like, instead of a long list of things to do that we can easily kind of check off and then move on with the rest of our day. Actually, let's see if we can reframe that into a relationship, spending time with the one who loves us the most. It's not easy, and a lot of the work that I've put into for my mental health has been trying to reframe or retrain my thoughts and the way I think about myself, and the way I think about myself in relation to God and to others. And the key process, I think, has to be, we have to keep reminding ourselves, preaching the gospel to ourselves. So hopefully this hasn't been too rambly, but I want to leave you with the encouragement that if you're struggling spending time with God, you're not alone. We should be there for each other as Christians to help each other along the way. We're all pilgrims travelling together. And a thought that keeps coming back to me, especially in these times, is from a speaker I heard at Keswick a few years ago. He said, there is no such thing as a bad Christian. There is no such thing as a bad Christian. So for when I feel like I failed, I can remember that God doesn't see it that way. That even when I don't feel good enough, Jesus is more than good enough for me, and he's more than good enough for you too. So let's take that step back and let's ask for God to help us to love him. God bless. Take care, and let's keep praying and encouraging one another.